So these are the kind of outline for your presentation for the class. First we'll go over your grouping assignments, then we'll discuss what the assignment is, and then the use of Purdue. So this is the group assignment. Just find your name and contact your group members today. That's your first assignment related to this presentation. We have 11 groups, and 10 of the groups have 6 members. One group has 4 members, so their roles will be divided a little bit differently. If anyone drops from the course or things change related to who's in your group, notify me immediately, and then we can reassign as needed. So for the assignment, what you'll do is choose one topic. So for your one group, you'll choose one topic to discuss. After that, you're going to distribute the roles that we'll discuss in just a minute among each team member. So one team member has one role. You're going to have 5 to 8 slides, not including the introduction and reference page. So no more than 8 slides, no less than 5 in order to cover the information that I want you to cover. And the whole discussion should take about 10 to 15 minutes. We only have 2 days to present these presentations and 11 groups, so we have to go through them pretty quickly. And then I require that you use at least 2 peer-reviewed articles in your presentation. It doesn't matter at what point you use those peer-reviewed articles, but they do need to be in the presentation. And you'll learn more about peer-reviewed articles when the library comes. So these are the roles and the required slides that you'll have in your presentation. So the first role is the group coordinator. This is the person responsible for checking and formatting and referencing on the PowerPoint. They'll also assemble the PowerPoint and submit it to Moodle. And then during the presentation, they'll introduce the presentation and each presenter. The second person is responsible for the description of the population. So they'll describe the cause of the disorder or the syndrome, whatever area you choose. If bilingualism is chosen, then you describe what bilingualism is and how it can be influenced. Then you have the third person responsible for the area of oral communication or swallowing affected. So these are the areas we've discussed in this class. You'll choose from cognition, language, swallowing, articulation, motor speech disorders. You'll have a list of those available to you and discuss those areas. Not every population will have a problem in every area, and so you want to choose the one specific to your population. The fourth person will look at social impact. So this is how a person with the language difference or syndrome or disorder may be affected socially. And I want you to be specific for this slide. So you can give a very specific circumstance of, going to the grocery store, going to the library, anything like that. So pick one instance when they're going to have an effect socially, not very general, they'll have trouble interacting. I want it as specific as possible. This slide can be worked on by multiple people in the group, but one person is responsible for putting that slide together. Then the fifth person will look at individual factors. So this is how individual differences about a person with this language difference, syndrome, or disorder could affect their communication outcomes. This one's more of a critical thinking kind of thing, same as the last slide. And again, the group can work together on this, but one person is responsible for putting that information together. And then for slide 6, you're going to talk about the myths and stereotypes to avoid for that population. So you'll describe how a community person or professional could reduce the social impact of the disorder, or the syndrome, or the language difference. And this is again a critical thinking slide that I want you all together to work on. For this presentation, you have some helpful resources. The textbook, of course, is going to give you a lot of the information that you need for the first few slides. And then the ASHA Practice Portal will give you some additional information. And the ASHA Practice Portal might give you information that's easier to understand. Now we're going to move on to APA citations. For those of you not familiar with APA, typically it's a little bit different from the MLA formatting. So this is the type of citations that we use consistently during undergrad and graduate courses in ComD. So I want you to get as familiar as you can with this now. When we talk about APA, we're going to use the Al Purdue reference. There is a manual you can check out in the library, but generally Al Purdue has a pretty good outline for that. Alright, so the general rules for citation is that every time you quote, paraphrase, or use an image from a source in your presentation, you need an in-text citation on the slide. This gives credit back to the person that came up with this original information, and it also gives your viewers a way to find the original source in case they want additional information. For a presentation, this is the same thing as if you did an in-text citation using APA. So when you're looking at Al Purdue, which we'll go over in a minute, that's what I want you to look at. Now you do need to have a reference page at the end of the PowerPoint, and this follows again the same format as you would in a paper. So when you're looking at Al Purdue, follow the general rules for in-text citations and references, and then go from there. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through Al Purdue. On their main page, you want to make sure that you're following the APA guidelines. There is an area for MLA and other citation styles, so I don't want you to go to any of those. Make sure that you're on APA. Now, they have a lot of different resources for the different types of things that you might be citing. I'm not going to go through every single one of those today, but I am going to make a note of a few. And then I gave you a link on the web page or on the PowerPoint, but it's also just here in general at the top of the page. This is a citation machine that they provide through Al Purdue. In general, I want you to know that you should be cautious when using citation machines. They're not 100% perfect. You always need to double check what you copy and paste. It's not to say that you can't use them, you just have to be sure that once you paste it into your document, it's the correct information. Because it's not acceptable to say it was the citation machine's fault because you know what it should be because of these guidelines. So the first thing that they have is just general APA guidelines. These are related more to papers, and so we're not going to talk about those today. What I do want to go to is the in-text citations over here. So they have general information here about what you should be doing in terms of in-text citations, and this is what you'll be using for the majority of your PowerPoints. One thing I want to note is that I don't want you to use any short quotations in your presentation. You should only be paraphrasing. So you're going to follow these rules down here. There are two different ways that you can cite in text. For the fluidity of your presentation, you're probably going to want to do more of this style, but you can use this one as well. Essentially, the difference is you're incorporating the citation into the sentence, where you're giving credit to the author and then citing that reference by putting the year, and then you continue on with the sentence. This one gives you the information that you're citing, and then at the end of the sentence you put the same information. So you can see they're pretty similar, but you have to be sure that you're using them in the correct way. Because you're using Jones in the sentence, it's kind of why you don't have to put it also in the quotations, in the parentheses, but you do have to do that when you're not putting the author's information at the end. This will make more sense once you go to the reference page and you see how you're finding these sources. They also have a page if you have multiple authors, so the rules change slightly depending on how many you have. Here we have two authors, and so you just make sure you put the ampersand in between, a comma, and a year, just like you had one author. For three authors, it's again very similar. All of the authors' names, the ampersand, and then the year. If you have any further citations of this group, then you change it to the next citation only being the first author and then et al. Now, if you have 6 or more authors, that's when you really only use et al. You never list out all 6 authors or all 8 authors. You really just put the first one and then et al. For every citation. So these two are slightly different in that way. All right, the next thing is the reference list. So again, they have a basic rules for the reference list. It tells you about formatting and capitalizations. So if you read through this, it can be very helpful. You can also look on their other pages and see if you follow the format of how they have theirs, then you generally have it correct. So this is for a single author. In the reference list, you have the author's name, the author's initials. They don't always have 2 initials, but if they do, you put them. And then the year. So you have a period after the initials, a period after the year. You capitalize only the first word, and then all other words are lowercase. And then at the end of the title of the article, you put a period. The journal title is in italics, and then that's followed by a comma. Now, the journal title all is capitalized, except for some of these words, the articles. So these are different, right? You have capitalized, and then all lowercase, and then all caps. Then you have a comma for the journal number, and then the page numbers of that journal for that article. Okay, this is pretty similar when you go into 2 authors, right? So all we did was add that ampersand, and then it follows the same general guidelines. This time they did include a colon, so this is where the rule slightly changes, where everything after the first word is lowercase until after a colon you capitalize that first word, and then it's lowercase again. Otherwise, it's very similar. What you may find on some articles when you're doing a citation machine or you're copying from the library webpage is an article number or a volume. So it'll follow, you'll have the journal title, you'll have the journal number, and then you'll have the volume, and it'll be 65 parentheses, whatever the volume number is, parentheses again, followed by the comma. So that's how that slightly differs. Alright, so this is the books page. And these again aren't too terribly different, but you're going to follow the same general guidelines for the author and the year. And then this is the title of the book, and then the place that it was published, and the publication, or the publisher. So that's the only thing that really changes there. And if you have any other electronic resources, you can follow these. You'll find some of the things that you copy and paste will also include a DOI number. You don't have to have the DOI for this presentation. So you'll see on this page they actually don't have DOIs listed until down here. And this is what I mean by DOI. You don't have to list that on your presentation for this class. The last thing I want to look at is this APA sample paper. This is actually a really helpful way to see how the citations look in a paper once you've gone through some of the general things. So for instance, on this one they have this person's name. So this is the either they've already cited this author or they have more than 6 authors. And so in the sentence they have the author et al. And then the year, and then they don't have to cite it until they have another sentence, and they this time put it at the end of the sentence. So you'll see this is just the standard sentence, and then at the end they have the author et al. With the year. So either way is fine. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, they also have a reference page, and this is how your last slide should look. So you'll have references up at the top, and then from there you'll have the hanging indentation. If you have trouble setting up the hanging indentation, it's not a huge deal. But just know that that is the standard setup for APA formatting. So you'll follow all of the reference list citation rules that they have listed on the side and go from there. Alright, so this is where I want you to double check all your citations. This is actually a citation that I retrieved from the LSU library webpage when I looked for the article. And then I copied it and pasted it right into this PowerPoint. So you'll see this is the APA citation that I copied, and they have incorrectly put the last name after the initials, and there's no period between. So that initially is wrong. And then for the title, they capitalized every word of the title. Again, this is incorrect. And then this one includes the DOI, and I crossed it out because we don't have to have those for this presentation. The next one I want you to look at what's wrong in this one. So just take a look real quick and you'll see the first thing that's missing, of course, is the author. So if you know that your journal or your article has an author, you have to be sure that you put that at the very beginning. And then once you get into it, you see that this is the title, every word is capitalized. And then this is the title of the journal. Every word is capitalized, but it's also not italicized. So this is what I want you to look out for. And then this is what I was talking about before, where you have the journal number followed by the volume or issue, and so that's where that number goes, like that. So this is the correct version down here at the bottom of that, where we have all of the authors listed with the correct name placement. Everything is lowercase for the title, and then the title of the journal is lowercase. And again, you have to look again because some of them will continue to be capitalized, and so in and of and the should not be capitalized. So this is an example PowerPoint of what I want you to do for your PowerPoint presentation. So in this case, I'm going to talk to you about feeding difficulties in cleft palate. The presenters are me, Bobby Joe, and Felicity Sam. Okay, we're going to talk about breastfeeding in infants with cleft palate. So I pulled an article. This is the information I included from the article, and down here at the bottom is the citation for that article, so when you go to the reference list you can easily find those. And then on the second page I have a figure here that I pulled from the article. I have the information that I pulled from the article, so down here is my citation for that. And then finally, this is my reference page. So we have the reference to Burka, which is from that first slide, and then the reference for Naveen from that second slide, and everything's correct here. Again, I'm not so concerned with hanging indentation on PowerPoints because it is difficult to do, but it is something that you need to know when you're doing a paper.